Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we've got Nick on, who is a personal stylist. Hi, Nick.
Hey Daniel, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, awesome. Very well, thank you. Can't complain. The sun is shining, so that is good.
Yes, it makes a nice change, doesn't it? It was a bit
It
of a
does.
rubbish bank holiday, wasn't it? A bit
It was,
cold.
it was awful. It was terrible. It's lucky I was working, to be fair, so I didn't really didn't complain too much.
So do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you do then, Nick?
Absolutely, yeah. So my name's Nick Howard Lanes, also known as Man About Style. So I'm a personal stylist for the everyday man. I provide proven positive change for guys that are not only lacking in that style sense, but are also battling with insecurities and mental health. So I am a firm believer that clothing is more than just clothes. It tells a story, it shares a message, and it makes us feel a better person when we're wearing something that we can identify with.
Definitely. So have you always loved fashion? Has that always played a part in your life, or is this relatively new?
Yeah, so I've always been into fashion. I've always watched what the world is wearing. So I'm a huge David Beckham fan, and I'm part of that era where he scored the winning free kick for against Greece, and I was big into my pop music through the '90s. So I think influences like that have always kept me interested in fashion.
Mm,
And when I went to university, I studied media arts and film and television. So I knew I wanted to be within that media space, but I never knew where I wanted to go from there. So I managed to, I actually did a Subway commercial as an extra. And I did that and got on really well with a second AD. And then she said to me, "Oh, do you want to come and do Pirates of the Caribbean?" I was like, "Sure,
wow.
why not?" I've just come out of university, trying to make some money. Didn't know anyone in the industry, so did a Subway commercial, and yeah, literally just through networking and being polite, I got this offer to be on Pirates of the Caribbean. And then when I was there, she said, "Oh, let me look at your hands." So I showed her my hands. She said, "Do you want to be Johnny Depp's hand double?" So so I was like, "Sure." She was like, "It's going to be X amount of money for the day, and you'll do it for a couple of days in between doing some AD work, which means assisting director, basically a runner, making teas and coffees." So I was like, "Brilliant." So straight away added Johnny Depp's hand double to my CV,
As you do.
as you do, yeah. So I worked as an AD, being a runner in film, working on Harry Potter,
Oh,
X-Men
wow.
First Class, some really amazing stuff that I just didn't expect I was going to get to be a part of. But it just wasn't satisfying me creatively. So I kind of had to find where shall I've worked hard and networked to get to here. Where shall I go from now? And I was doing it was fittings for World War Z, the Brad Pitt film. I was doing fittings, so basically getting the extras lined up, ticking off their names, they go into costume and get fitted. And then I was speaking to one of the crowd supervisors and said, "I think I'm interested in costume. I've always been interested in fashion and that side of things." And he said, "Okay, cool, come on as a trainee." And literally it just started from there. So that was my first ever costume job on film. And then I've kind of just networked and wiggled my way through the industry from there.
Because on your Instagram, which is great if you're looking for a few tips on men's style, Jules, you could have a look maybe, mate. um,
Much appreciated.
and it says that you've done work with Google, Netflix. There's loads of great companies, and all those films you just named as well. So you've obviously worked on establishing yourself within the industry.
Yeah, I have. It's hard graph, and as you know from speaking to other great people on your podcast, that everything is so competitive. I think no matter if you're an accountant, if you're a stylist, if you're in hair and makeup, everything is a competition. So I've always made sure that I've tried my best, and I've literally, as I said before, I've networked and tried to get to where I want to go. So from film, I did a movie called Rush, which is about a Formula One in the '70s. About I can't remember Nicky Lauda, I think it is. Really good film. I think it's on Netflix at the minute.
Mm.
And I did that, and then one of the supervisors for Strictly Come Dancing was on that. So then she brought me on to Strictly Come Dancing, and I became Sir Bruce Forsyth's dresser. And I
Wow.
did that. Yeah, I know. And I did that until, God bless his soul, until he left us. And that was an amazing experience to work with such a entertaining legend like that. And then the designer on Strictly then became the designer on The Voice UK. And then that's how I became a stylist, basically, because she brought me on as a stylist on The Voice. And that was the biggest job that I've ever done. And it's the most poignant job I've ever done because I learned so much on the job. I learned that I could get a 60-year-old woman who sings country music come through the door, and I've got to dress her, and she's got to feel comfortable with me dressing her and styling her. And then I might get a 16-year-old R&B singer come to me, and I've got to dress him and make him feel comfortable and believe that I can style him and I've got his best interests at heart. So doing that for several seasons taught me so much. And I
So
think that's,
the outfits
yeah.
that we see them in aren't the outfits that they turned up in.
Well, it goes through stages. So the
Ah.
blind auditions, because these productions don't want to pay out too much money, we basically style them from their suitcase. So we'll tell them literally bring your entire wardrobe, open it up, and we'll start to pick from there. And then the next stage after that, you get a sort of smaller budget, and then you get a bigger budget, and then a bigger budget. So yeah, it all happens in stages. But technically, all of those contestants, yeah, they're all styled for TV.
Oh, wow.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you've obviously had an interesting experience how you've developed through this industry. Is that typical for this industry? Is once you're in and you get to know people, it's sort of like ping ponging about, and you can sort of go where you want as long as you know the people. Is that sort of the way it develops?
It is really, and it is for me. So when I first started out in costume, I'm not going to lie, I got a few other costume people and colleagues kind of looked down at me because I didn't do a fashion degree or I didn't do a textiles degree or anything like that. And I always thought, oh no, maybe I'm not as good as them. And that did chip away at my confidence a lot. But then I came to learn that it is possible to learn on the job. I don't feel like a degree is the be all and end all. And I know that probably goes against of the teaching system, but I think if you've got an interest and a passion for something, I think 100%, if someone's willing to teach you and give you a position and you take it with your full grasp, then absolutely you can just run with that.
Definitely. I think more my personal opinion, I don't know if you agree, Jules, is degrees are in school are certainly pushed. And if you're not doing a degree, they will question you and question you and question you as to why you're not doing a degree, because why wouldn't you do one in their eyes? But really, a lot of the people we've spoken to that are in industries that don't necessarily require one, they've done so well without one. So like
That's
you say,
interesting.
to go and be in the sort of fashion world, you still don't really need a degree, right?
No, and it's kind of yeah, about the whole confidence thing with it. I still do wish that I had that backing to say, because sometimes, like I just did Little Mermaid last week, and I was talking to an older costume lady, and she was saying, "Oh, these trainees aren't professionals like us. They haven't done a degree." And I know, and I still didn't say anything. I didn't pipe up and say, "Actually, I haven't," because I couldn't be bothered to get into that debate. We've just done like a 14-hour day, so I just kept quiet. But then I was thinking, why didn't I say anything? Am I still ashamed about it? But I've never used my media arts degree to get a job. Never. I've never.
I think that's very common for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Certainly, judging off our friendship group, a lot of those people that did degrees in certain areas don't use the degree that they got for their job in any way, shape, or form.
So interesting.
Yeah, and I guess what is actually a stylist? Like, it sounds really silly, but what are you doing? What are some of the things you're looking at, and what actually is it?
Yeah, so I'll talk in terms of doing personal styling. So personal styling started as a side hustle off the back of knowing what I could achieve from The Voice. So it started as a side hustle, been doing that since 2014, and I've just grown to love it. The rewards are huge. Seeing someone turn up at Westfields really insecure, quite timid, don't know how to dress, just really lacking in confidence, and then seeing them 4, 5, 6 hours later, and the change of personality. You see their posture, their shoulders rolled back, and then you end up getting a text message with a photo of all the clothes on their bed and saying like, thanks, Nick, this is amazing. So that is what I really want to focus on now, is doing the personal styling, because it's just so self-rewarding. So basically, in the most basic terms of what we do is we will not just, well, for me anyway, I'll not just style someone to look trendy and look fashionable. And I think that's what most people think a stylist is, that you're going to look at a shop mannequin, see the clothes on there, think that looks good, walk into the store and take that shirt, those jeans and those trainers. But actually it's far more in depth than that. And there's a lot of psychology involved with it, because like I said at the beginning, clothes represent a person, they uncover an identity. And a lot of the clients that come to me, it's not because they want to look, excuse my French, the dog's bollocks. It's because they want to either overcome a messy divorce they're going through, because they've been single for 10 years and they want to find love, or they're looking for a promotion at work and they don't quite know how to do that. And I didn't know this at the beginning. I just had an interest in fashion. I get on really well with people. I love people. I love meeting new people. And it's over time that I've learned that actually there's more to it. So I'll either do a wardrobe review where I'll come to your house, Daniel, and I'll open up your wardrobe doors. We'll get everything out. I'll make you try everything on, and basically we'll create some clothing clarity. We'll see what's working for you, what isn't working. I'm really into sustainability as well. So if trousers or shirts or jumpers or blazers can be reused by pinning them in, taking them to a tailor's, then we'll do that. Whatever's not working, we'll take it to a charity shop. So that's the wardrobe review. And then after then we can do a personal styling session where we can meet up at Westfields, for example, and we'll go to all the stores that are going to relate to your personal branding. And we'll try things on, and we'll basically just home in on what your style can be.
Do you have a sort of a demographic that you're more comfortable or tailored towards?
So the main demo, it started out being a lot of friends of friends. So it was people of my age group. So I'm 32 at the minute. So when I first started out, it was guys in their late 20s and early 30s. And I didn't think it was going to be that, because I thought those guys know how to dress. You just assume, you think, oh, they're going to be on social media. They follow what celebrities are wearing. But then as that moment passed, I get a lot of gentlemen that are in probably their late 30s more so, that have either gone through marriage and that's broken up, or haven't been married yet and they're looking for love. So I'd say it's mainly 35 to 45-year-old gentlemen.
So being a stylist, and you've worked on all these movies and all these shows, what's the industry actually like as a stylist? Is that the bread and butter, the TV, the movies, the media side, or is there other aspects to the industry?
Yeah, so at the moment, that is the bread and butter. So when I said I did Little Mermaid last week, I did that for bread and butter. It's great dinner conversation. It's great to sit down and tell people I've worked on Little Mermaid and this is what the costumes look like. This is what the set looks like. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to fulfill my end goal in life and what I want to achieve. So it's good to have that. And I did Bridgerton the week before, and I'm lucky to be asked to jump on board these amazing shows. I love watching Bridgerton. My missus will hate me saying it, but it definitely spiced up our relationship. So it's great. It's great to be asked that. So that's why I had personal styling as a side hustle, because unless you're just going to be confined to that industry, because a lot of people, I do film, TV and commercials. A lot of people just stick to one. So some people just stick to films, and some people just do reality TV or entertainment TV, and some just stick to the commercial game. So it's very rare to get someone that does flutter around. So I guess that kind of, I don't know, I've always battled with myself thinking, is it jack of all trades and master of none? But I think for me, it's just, I'm trying to tick so many creative boxes.
Variety is good as well, right?
It's the spice of life, they say, don't they?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it.
So if somebody was to say reality TV, let's take that as an example, you get called in by the director or producer or whoever, and do they say to you, this is the vibe we want? Do you have to go to social media and research trends? Do you have to be up to date with the fashion industry? What are some of the things that you use as your tools to guide your styling?
I tell you what, it's an ongoing battle of tug of war. And it's not just two people pulling the rope, there's about 20 people pulling the rope. So you'll normally get called in and they'll know what you've worked on before, because they'll either look at Instagram or your website or something like that. So you'll get called in and then you'll read what the brief is. So just in the top of my head, because I did a commercial not too long ago, you'll get a brief, which is basically a PDF document that the director's created, and you'll see the cast breakdown, and it will say, let's just say they're a timid, shy person, they're working from home, and they're selling slippers. So you'll read this brief and then you'll go away and you have to create a mood board. So I'll then infuse my opinion and say, right, so I'll be like, they're sitting at home, it's comfortable, it's about slippers, it's for a young 20-year-old, something that's their demographic. And then I'll probably start looking at Instagram and asking people that I know. I'll probably ask my partner if that's the demographic. I'll say, okay, what do you think people are wearing at the minute? And just, not try to make it my own personal views. Try to make it as real as possible. And then I'll send off that mood board, and then it will come back about 20 times, and it goes over and over, because the director will talk to the producers, then they'll talk to the clients, which is basically the slipper company. And then it's just an ongoing battle, and then they expect you to buy the entire store on no doubt a shoestring budget. So as much you can literally, I've done a commercial before where I've had about 6 rails packed to the brim of clothes, and this is for like 6 characters in a commercial, and you're thinking, I physically can't buy any more clothes, but someone will want that one bright orange cable knit jumper that you haven't brought. You're just like, it's so typical. So what I do now is I do so many mood boards, and I buy what is on those mood boards, even if they've crossed it off the list, just so it's there. And then on the day, they end up seeing the cast members in the flesh, and it will change again. So what I've learned in this industry, and I learned this really early on, is not to fall in love with anything you create, because someone will go and change it, and someone will try and tread on your creativity. So as much as I love something, I always tell myself, no, Nick, you're going to have to change this in a second, so just hold fire.
And what would be some personality traits that you see in yourself and maybe some of your colleagues around you that you think really help you thrive in this industry?
I think if you're friendly and you can get on with people and you can talk to people, I think that will get you so far in life. I couldn't sew on my first, when I was a trainee on World War Z, I couldn't sew. And I remember we were in an airplane hangar, I think that's the right word, and loads of these zombies were attacking this aeroplane. And one of the stunt guys had like this helmet on, and he had a badge on, and the badge fell off, and he came running up to me in between a take where you've probably got about 5-minute turnaround. It's like, oh, you work in costume, can you sew this on for me? And I did not know how to sew. Stupidly should have just asked my mum to teach me before I started the job. But that really didn't matter, because I was friendly with all my colleagues. I was friendly with the stunt guy that I was looking after, and that didn't hinder me in the slightest. So I truly believe that if you could be the best at your job, you could be the Stephen Hawkins of your industry, but if you're not friendly and you're not personable, and they're not going to hire you again for the next job, because this is self-employment, it's not PAYE. So if no one's going to hire you, then there's no way that you're going to progress and you're going to get work.
And for you, what would be some of the biggest positives that you've had out of this career so far?
It's what I've touched on earlier slightly, is that it's seeing the change in people. It's seeing that something so simple as the clothes we wear on our backs can change the way we feel, even to the point of, let's say, some singers that go on stage, and the tears of joy when they come off stage and they sing and they say thank you so much. I felt like a superstar on stage. And having a guy that was going through some really bad mental health issues, and he had bad skin allergies, and he came to me and he was so timid, and just knowing that I could just hang out with him, spend the day with him, being as natural and as down to earth as possible, but giving him some advice and telling him that actually clothes on your back can help you feel like self-successful. And that is the biggest positives that I feel. And I kind of just want to keep spreading that message. And part of why I'm doing this is because there's still no menswear slot on telly. No one's on This Morning talking about menswear style. No one's on Lorraine talking about it.
Yeah,
I know. So this is my mission, boys. Is that's the aim, is to help the men out there as well and tell them how to dress, because I think a lot of it comes from their partners, or a lot of it is just men still dressing how they dressed throughout all the other chapters in their life. They're still the 21-year-old guy wearing clothes that probably don't fit him too well. So this is my aim, is to be that guy and be the go-to. So I've set myself a huge target there, so we'll see.
That's awesome though. No, it'd be good. Good to watch your progress and see your journey as well.
Thank you.
For you, what would be some of the less favorable aspects of this industry though?
The fact that it is so cutthroat and it is a competition. No matter if you're a designer, supervisor, a stylist, just a costumer, an assistant, there is a lot of negativity over the word fashion, for starters. And all on my website, I rarely mention the word fashion because I feel there's such a stigma behind it. There's a pretentiousness, there's a cutthroat style, it's very unfriendly. And that's the opposite message that I'm trying to give off. So I think that's a huge negative, is the pretense of this industry, is that people realize it's a bit like Devil's Wears Prada. And I heard that being talked about on one of your previous podcasts with a lovely lady that I can't remember her name. But you mentioned Devil's Wears Prada, and it's exactly like that. And that's how we envision the industry. So for me to get clients and be hired, I want to be as far away associated as that as possible.
I think with like the advent of social media and all these challenger brands and people like yourself who are on Instagram and putting outfits together and giving inspiration, it's kind of almost breaking that old world of fashion down a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And my biggest competition, because men don't see personal styling as being for men. I think in our heads we stereotype it as it's just women teaching women how to dress and that's it. So I think that's the huge battle that I've got. But in terms of my biggest competition, it's the influencers on Instagram that aren't stylists themselves, but they've got millions of followers and they're being sponsored by these low-key fashion brands. And I'm not slating them in the possible, because it's money and it's great what they're doing and they are creating an influence. But what they're doing is wearing clothes that are sent to them and saying, buy these clothes. Whereas what I'm doing is for the individual. Everyone is different with me and I cater for the individual. So they're my biggest competition, is to try and let them look at little old me and tell them that actually I'm trying not to tell you what to wear. I'm trying to just guide you into it. And that's the hardest thing with promoting, is that I can do a YouTube video and say 10 ways to style a white t-shirt, which is great. But if it doesn't actually cater for that guy might not like wearing t-shirts because he doesn't like crew necks and he thinks that crew necks make his neck look really skinny. So I've always got to try and be aware that I don't want to preach. I just want to advise, and what I'm creating is just for aspiration, and that's it. Yeah.
So you sort of mentioned earlier that this isn't really, you don't really get employed as a stylist. It's very much, self-employment, even within the movie and TV sort of industry. So we always at this point go away and sort of talk about average income. So we'll look for some figures and see if you would agree, which I think is always quite unfair, to be honest, when we have people that are self-employed, because we always say this, it's completely up to you, you know, how hard you work, what your network's like,
Yeah,
how often you're working. But I mean,
yeah.
online, it does say around 22,000 for a stylist within the movie and TV industry. Does
Right.
that kind of sound right?
Well, don't look at my 2020 tax return because that'll tell a totally different story.
See, that's what I
Um,
mean. With these industries and self-employed things, it's the question's almost a bit redundant, but you know, we like
yeah,
to give a kind of an idea,
that,
if you'd like.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. Is that recent figures
Yeah, it
as
is. Yeah,
well?
recent.
Recent
Yeah,
stats?
yeah.
I think that's quite low.
Okay.
Um, I thought it would have been more, to be honest. The costume industry in film, TV, and commercial, we are one of the departments that actually gets paid the least. So hair and makeup will get paid way more than what we get. And if anything, we're in before them and we leave after them just because of the preparation time and the wrapping up time.
Mm.
So we're poorly paid, but still, in the grand scheme of things, it's good money. So I'll talk openly. So just for a costume assistant role on Little Mermaids, which is Disney, that was £290 a day.
Wow.
So £290 a day, which is really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's PAYE though, because for
Yes.
big films it goes through as PAYE. But if you're, let's say, designing a commercial and you can put that through, that's self-employment work, it all gets like my accountant has a field day with me because it's either PAYE or self-employment. But for designing a commercial, that can be anything up to from £300 to £600, depending on the client.
Okay.
So it's actually really good money, but obviously then there's a lot of us and you're competing. So
Yeah.
you're
And
obviously
you're
like,
relying on your network to get you in for jobs and for their jobs
yeah,
to be there as well, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. And I've been brought up, and I'm lucky I've got my mum's genes that she's so good with money, and I'm really good with money. So I can be really busy for a month, and if I don't work for a month or 2 months after that, I can budget really well. So I know
Mm.
what I can spend, whether I can go and have a crazy one with the boys or treat the missus to something. Probably should have said that one first, shouldn't I?
Yeah, probably. We'll try and
I mean,
edit it round the other way.
yeah, if you could flip that, thanks, guys. So I'm lucky in that sense. Like if it was my brother in this industry, he loves to treat himself. So it might be a bit harder, but yeah, I would have thought that it was at least probably around the 36k mark, 40k mark. I would have
Okay, so
thought.
it's very good money. You know, that's way above the
Yeah,
national average.
yeah, I think it's good money. And then you have to bear in mind with a lot of these productions, if you go into overtime, then you get paid, which is a lot of the time, especially in film, then you get paid handsomely per hour. Um, so that, yeah,
So have you got any tips for anyone listening to this and thinking, oh, do you know what? I'd actually love to go and be a stylist within, you know, TV, movies, or like you're doing, you know, with your own side hustle. Is
yeah,
there anything they can do to specifically get into the TV and movie world as a stylist?
yeah. Well, if you haven't done a degree, like stupid old me, in fashion or costume or anything like that, I would 100% recommend, and I always say this to people when they ask me, can I get them on as a trainee? Literally sign up to extras agencies. There's ones called Ray Knight, 2020, Mad Dog, and you'll go there. You can look as ugly as possible. You can look as beautiful as possible, and it does not matter. It's anyone's game. So there's no need to feel insecure. You don't have to have acting experience whatsoever. But if you sign up to these agencies, you'll go in, they'll take a photo of you, take your measurements, and you'll get a text every time a production's on. And in the UK at the minute, there is so much being filmed. We're inundated. So join those. And that way, you did what I did when I was on a Subway commercial. You're there, you're living and breathing it. You're 10 meters away from an actor, you're on a set. And that way, you can network and you can talk to people and you can tell them, this is my dream. I want to be an AD. Can I become an AD? Or I want to be in hair and makeup. Can you get me on, please? So that's what I would recommend, is taking the backdoor route and just make sure that you're super friendly and you're just showing a passion and a love for this. And that's the main reason why I do it. And I love working with extras as well, because if you're doing a film, let's say Bridgerton, they were long days. They were like 16-hour days.
Wow.
In my alarm clock was 3:30 in the morning, driving to, I was gonna say where I was driving to, but I think I'll get my head chopped off from Netflix. Then driving to an unknown location, and you're literally getting about 300 extras through the door, early doors, and you've got to be upbeat. Like, everyone's coming in with still sleepy dust in their eyes, and you've got to make them feel good, and come on, we're going to look great, let's put on this period costume. And I love it. I absolutely love doing that, because I get to talk to people. And there's, like, even on Bridgerton, I've made so many connections just through business as well. You get to talk to people and they say, oh, so what else do you do? Oh, I'm personal stylist, Man About Style. They say, oh, cool, give me your card. And it's just the best place to be for networking. There's hundreds of people to talk to.
That's awesome. For you though, what would be something that was just not in the job description? You know, you started off obviously on that Subway commercial. It's been a journey to get here, but what's something you just never expected along the way?
Well, I'll tell you what, no matter what position you are, whether you're a trainee, an intern, or a designer, you always, and excuse my French again, you always have to pick up someone's shit. And sometimes that's quite literal, and I'm not even joking. The stories I could tell about some people, and the disregard is hilarious. I mean, we're all human and things happen, but sometimes they'll get out of their costume and you're left to pick up their shit. And
oh my word.
Yeah, and that it doesn't matter who you are, you're still, at the end of the day, you're dealing with human beings. And not all humans are polite and nice and, you know, work by the book. So that's the one thing that I never knew about the job.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you this one story. I won't actually say his name, but he's a huge actor, been around for about 30 years, top films. I used to have to knock on his door and go into his dressing room because he would have a nap in the daytime. And I had to physically shake him to wake him up. He'd be in his pants under the duvet. And I had to shake him and wake him up and say, hey, we're ready to put the costume out. You like costume on? Are you ready? And they would just get up, not talk, their hair just sticking up. And I'd dress this person that I just had to wake up. And I'm like, I just couldn't believe this was happening. Like, this A-list celebrity. I know. I would be hugely embarrassed if I got a costume person to come and wake me up.
You're going to have to tell us who it is off air.
I'll tell you off air, but I can't. Again, I'll be beheaded if I said it.
And would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now?
I would, 100%. 100% I would. Just because creatively, I always call myself a creative. It's as of recent, since I've launched Man About Style, that I've started saying I'm a personal stylist and I'm a stylist. But I always used to say I'm a creative, because it's just, being in this industry, there's no bars. You can branch off into so many aspects. I brought about 4 years ago when I went traveling, brought a Canon camera, just one of the amateur cameras, and just picked that up, started shooting people that I met traveling, and then switched it over to video, upgraded the camera, started shooting videography, did a few music promos just on the side. And literally, you just learn so much. You can learn from all these different creative people and feel so inspired. So I would not change it for the world.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Nick. It's been really interesting, and I love your mission with, you know, helping guys and the mental health aspect. I think that's really cool.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. I really appreciate being on. This has been in the diary all month, and I've been looking forward to it. So
That's
thank
awesome.
you so much.
Well, thank you again. And where can people find you and find out what you're doing?
Well, you can find me. Oh, I like this little plug section. This is nice. You can find me at www.manaboutstyle.co.uk or on Instagram at manaboutstyle.nick. And that's that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Nick.
Thank you, lads. I appreciate it.